Okay, 1, 2, 3 testing. It's a screen test. Make sure we're doing okay here. All right, looks like we're doing okay. So this video is going to be somewhat short. I'm just recapitulating sort of the university thread that we're following, which was we're in philosophy. We're working with Wittgenstein, remarks on the foundations of mathematics, right? And we're asking what kind of difference does it make when we say change what we mean by multiplying two numbers to get an area? What if we did it like we show here, starting with a grid of n by n, and multiplication looks something more like this. Now that's elaborate, but it's designed to fit into the Martian math curriculum we've been exploring. There's a lot of videos on that. So then we extrapolate to three numbers. Basically, we want to see volume computations that look more like our area computations, continuing the theme from an equilateral triangle to an equi-edged, equi-angled tetrahedron. And this becomes the basis of a whole new science fiction civilization that runs in parallel to ours, where we consider ourselves the cubic people. We're really into the cube, the unit cube, everything cube. This is the word orthonormal, orthodox, all come from this kind of rectilinear. These are all words associated with sticking to the tradition of 3 dimensions and so forth. It's very ingrained, and nobody fights it really, except Fuller. He's kind of the ultimate maverick in that he decides to challenge the basic vocabulary of everybody. But he just says, well, I'm just building my sandcastle off here in a remote area. Don't pay any attention. This is just me doing this. And of course, there's a lot of interest in what he does, as it turns out, because he's getting a lot of good results. And he's copied a lot and then accused of imitating a lot. You know how that works. So then you've got the rhombic dodecahedron of volume 6 relative to this cube of 3. So then I just switch there to the synergetics, and that's the kind of difference it makes when you change your meaning of third powering. So again, we're doing like a philosophical investigation of a hypothetical, non-existent science fiction tribe of the kind that Wittgenstein was into. You'll know his philosophy is anthropological in flavor, and he makes up language games and imputes that maybe there's this tribe somewhere. It's a thought experiment. But let's just create a nuanced difference in some hypothetical tribe and see how that reflects back on us. And this is a way to do philosophy. Hold up a mirror, but it's a mirror that's been doctored a little bit to highlight things about yourself. It's an observational matrix, if you will. And Wittgenstein got really good at that, and we study him mainstream anyway. So there's not like I have to get on a soapbox and say, oh, let's study Wittgenstein. He was really a genius, because everyone already agrees with that. That's kind of taken for granted now. So for me to say, oh, well, let's start with Wittgenstein is not a big revolution at that point. It's just let's steer into this third powering model and look at the consequences in terms of literature, American transcendentalism, where did it go, and the poetic space in general. How is it being informed? How are the humanities being changed by these kinds of investigations is kind of a question. So I've been pursuing that a lot. These videos have a lot more on them, in them. You should probably check out the general systems theory stuff. If you're looking for how does this impact the planet as a whole, I think partly because it challenges economics also at a fundamental level in terms of where does wealth come from. You know, we're much more fixated on the cosmic sources of wealth, which is not some kind of airy-fairy notion. It's just hard-nosed physics that we're plugged into the sun, a fusion reactor. Yes, it would be great if humans could control fusion on planet Earth as opposed to almost destroying it, but we don't have to wait. We've got the sun turned on already. There's an on switch that's been flipped. No thanks to us. And with some creativity, there. See what we're. It's the intelligence that's in low supply. We're always projecting it on finite resources, but we keep doubling. And yes, we're leveling off, but we're already way beyond what Malthus ever thought we could carry, right? And yet we're still Malthusian because we do know there is an upper limit, and that bums us out. And so we're kind of like, it's not an infinite universe, ergo, I must pick up a gun. No, there's a leap in logic there. You don't have to fight your neighbors on planet Earth. We're not up to that point. Maybe someday, okay? But right now is where we could be taking advantage of a good situation, way more than we are. But we're still too upset about things in our heads. And Fuller was hoping his philosophy would percolate out there and kind of calm us down, like that keep calm, as we say, and give us more time to think, keep us cold in our calculations. I don't mean that in a no empathy sense, but in a Cold War sense, which in its good meaning means we keep the fight in our heads. We don't lose our heads. We stay cool-headed, and if there's a war to be fought, we'll fight it psychologically. Through PR, advertising, propaganda, whatever. That's way smarter already than throwing fiery bombs at each other, right? So let's admit that there's some things that are obsolete, I think. It's kind of obvious to me. But this philosophy is held back. You're probably not getting it in school right now. It's up to YouTube to tell you these things. Well, that's kind of an interesting situation. We'll think more about that. Talk to you soon.